Let's begin with Major Garrett in Miami with Carly Fiorina, who just endorsed Ted Cruz. Major.
Hi, Elaine. Kind of an improvisational theater here at the Spin Room. You never know exactly who's going to walk in and who you're going to want to get on camera and talk to. And 5 minutes ago, I looked over and saw Carly Fiorina. I said, we need to talk to her. So, Carly, it's great to have you with us. Thank you for joining us. Let me ask you first and foremost, you endorsed Ted Cruz yesterday. You said you are among those appalled in the Republican Party by Donald Trump. What's wrong with Trump and what's right with Ted Cruz?
Well, first of all, Donald Trump isn't a conservative. And that actually matters because, you know, the Supreme Court hangs in the balance, for example. I know exactly what kind of justice Ted Cruz will nominate to the Supreme Court. They'll be a constitutional conservative. I have no idea what kind of justice a Donald Trump would nominate, and that matters a lot. Secondly, I ran for president because I think we have to challenge the status quo. The system works for the big, the powerful, the wealthy, and the well-connected, and it doesn't work for the small and the powerless, and Republicans and Democrats alike have presided over that system. Ted Cruz has made enemies because he's challenged that system, and Donald Trump is the system. He and Hillary Clinton are two sides of the same coin. She's made her millions selling access and influence, and he's made his billions buying people like Hillary Clinton off. He's not going to reform the system. He is the system.
Are you concerned, as many Republicans are, about not just the tone of Donald Trump, but the sort of broad brush that he paints with, in that it could create deeper divisions in this country, not just from the perspective of how Republicans relate to the country, but how he talks to the world?
Yes, I am concerned. And it's why I have said from almost the moment he announced his candidacy, he doesn't represent me and he doesn't represent the Republican Party. But I also think we have to be fair. Divisive tone is not monopolized by Donald Trump. There are a lot of people with divisive tone, and some of them are Democrats. Some of them, unfortunately, are in elected office. So I think Americans are very concerned about division in this country. They want unity again in this country. There's a reason race relations are at an all-time low right now, and it's not just Donald Trump's fault. A lot of people have contributed to that divisive tone, but Donald Trump certainly is among them.
I asked that because I'm thinking about his response last night to Anderson Cooper when he asked if Islam is at war with the West, and Donald Trump left the implication that he thinks all of Islam hates America, and therefore all of Islam is, at least theoretically, an enemy. Where do you come down on that?
Well, I think that's clearly inaccurate. And I've said many, many times, look, we need Muslim allies to help defeat terrorists. We have a whole set of Sunni Arab allies whose help we need to defeat ISIS, for example. It's also true that this administration has downplayed, ignored, one might say, the real threat from radical Islamic terrorism for a really long time. Remember Nadal Hassan? That was workplace violence. Actually, no, it was Islamic jihad. Remember San Bernardino? Immediately after San Bernardino, President Obama is talking about gun control. That's not an issue of gun control. That's an issue of terrorism in San Bernardino, California. And that's why I think Americans are frustrated and unfortunately prone to that kind of talk sometimes.
Let me ask you about something as a candidate that you tried to harness, which is large Republican turnout for you. Donald Trump argues with some credibility turnout is higher. He has some claim to driving that turnout, and he says, for Republicans who criticize me, get on board, understand what's happening out there. First of all, what do you see happening out there, and why is it a bad idea to get on board, in his words?
Well, first of all, it is wonderful when people come out to vote for the first time. It's great that turnout is up. But here's the thing. Over 60% of Republicans aren't going to vote for Donald Trump. And what we know from the polling data is that the more they learn about him, the less they like him. In other words, late deciding voters aren't deciding for Donald Trump. There's one guy who's beat Donald Trump. There's one guy who has momentum right now, and that's Ted Cruz. His numbers are rising. More and more voters are coming out for him. Ted Cruz is the only guy who can beat Donald Trump, and it's one of the reasons I endorsed him, because we need to beat Donald Trump fair and square at the ballot box.
Not at a contested convention.
No, not at a contested convention. And
what do you think would be the harm? What do you think there would be harm for the Republican Party if at a contested convention the whole situation was scrambled?
Well, you know, I mean no disrespect, Major, but every prognosticator has gotten this election wrong, almost from the beginning. And so rather than engage in theoretical discussions about what might happen in July, I'm kind of focused on what is happening right now in March. And I think what is happening right now in March is Donald Trump's support is not growing. It's kind of plateaued. And Ted Cruz's support is growing, and he's the only guy who can beat Donald Trump. So that's what I'm going to be focused on right now.
Carly Fiorina, thank you very much for your time in the spin room.
Thanks, Major.
Elaine, there you go. Back to you.